Hey YouTube, how you going? Just a quick video, well not really a quick video, but I've been one lazy ass YouTuber lately, so I do apologise. Getting back from the States after Spartan Race World Championship, I've just had so much kind of going on in my head and with work and family and all these kind of cool things. So finally getting around to doing a video on the Spartan Race World Championships, and I mean, first of all, what a course. The toughest single lap obstacle race that I've ever done. The reason why I put the single lap qualifier is because I think there will always be an argument what's tougher, world's toughest mudder, or something like the Spartan Race Ultra Beast at Vermont or the Spartan Race World Championship Beast. And in my opinion, they're both completely different events. They require different strengths, and they can both be extremely tough in their own right. So I'm not in the camp that says one's tougher than another. Certainly, the Spartan Race World Championship Beast is shitloads tougher than a standard Tough Mudder. It's shitloads tougher than a standard Spartan Beast. But, I don't see a reason to argue over what's tougher between something like World's Toughest Mudder and the Spartan Race World Championships. Just like, there's, what's the toughest ultra marathon out there? You know what I mean? Like, you could have something like Badwater where it's, bloody boiling hot and you're like frying yourself to death. Or you could have, something in the freezing cold that's of the same distance. Or, you just can't draw direct parallels between some things. Some things are just tough and other things just aren't. They all fall into that tough category is basically what I'm saying. But yeah, I think just talking about the event and what the benefit for me, I think, was that I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot as a runner, I learnt a lot as an obstacle racer, and I learnt a lot as someone who wants to do endurance events. I think the biggest thing that I learnt from that was the importance of doing hill work. I really noticed the benefit of doing hill work in my training. Although I was obviously slower than the guys who won and everything like that, and wasn't too happy with my overall position, I didn't feel super out of place in the running sections, either uphill or downhill, or the hiking sections uphill and downhill. The area of the race where I lost my time was on the sandbag carry and the bucket carry and that kind of thing. I just wasn't, prepared more so, maybe even on a mental level, but also just with doing that type of activity for such an extended period of time. Walking, going up that hill, some people doing it half hour, 45 minutes, an hour just on that one obstacle. And it's a different thing from a lot of races we have here in Australia where you carry a sandbag and you're essentially on flat track or a small hill. To lug that right up, the side of the mountain was pretty extreme. So that was the thing. That's one of the things I learnt, that to go and do a race in Vermont or any kind of ski field, there is a home ground advantage or a benefit of training in terrain that's similar. So if you can do that, I would definitely recommend it. Second to that is, again, to be competitive, you have to train with these things. You have to get a heavy ass sandbag and walk up and down hills all day. You have to carry buckets full of rocks. It places a different demand on your body. So if you're looking at going over there and being competitive, you have to train with these things, in my opinion. They've got to complement your training. Like, you're still going to have to do all your running and stuff. You can't just, rely on carrying sandbags for 4 or 5 hours as your training. You gotta, do your running, and then, maybe you find a hill and you just do an hour worth of repeats with a sandbag on your shoulders or something. I don't know exactly what. You've obviously got to adapt it to where your strengths and weaknesses are. The second thing I really learnt about the race was that it doesn't have to be a super cold air temperature to get hypothermia, or to start to get hypothermia. After you'd kind of done a lot of the obstacles and a lot of the course at the top of the mountain, you worked your way down and eventually reached the first of the water obstacles. I think by that stage, obviously fatigue's kicking in a little bit, so my body was slowing down. I hit the water. I do the rope climb, no problems, come out, go around, do the traverse wall, go into the water and do the kind of cargo netted ladder climb where you then have to do the Tarzan swing. Obviously failed on the Tarzan swing. I think when I went through, the guy said like only about 12 or 13 people had made it, so the failure rate was extremely high. You're then obviously doing burpees, you're soaking wet, and after that, I just literally started to shake. My teeth were chattering. I was really, really cold. Even though the air temperature wasn't that cold, like compared to World's Toughest Mudder, like the water wasn't that bad either. I mean, I know I wasn't in a wetsuit, but it just didn't feel anywhere near as bad. Hit a real dark patch there, and just going through like they had the forest wooded area. It was quite dense, so there wasn't a lot of natural light getting through, and it just felt cold in there. And that was partly probably because my body was like reacting in the way that it was. Eventually though, there was like a beacon of light, just this light shining on this rock, and I sat down and was in the sun and took on some food, and slowly I came good, and I was able to obviously continue with the race. But I did enter a dark period there where the thought of quitting looked pretty damn good. But I kept going because, fuck it, I travelled all that way, I wasn't going to stop. Even though, like, if someone said, hey, Paul, like, let's just take you inside, it's race, you don't have to race, like, it would have been tempting, I'm not going to lie, but I think, learnt as well, and from the other races I've done, like, I got to address that thought. Why am I having that thought? I'm having that thought because I'm cold. What can I do to overcome that situation? There's some heat on that rock. It's been heated by the sun. Let's sit on that. Let's take on some food and let's get going again. And towards the end of the race, man, I was coming good. Like, I was feeling really strong, and ended up meeting up with this other guy, and we were kind of doing the last bit of the course, and I was like raring to go. And on that final sandbag carry, he probably had to stop once or twice more than I did. But, I'd started to come good. So that kind of does reinforce my belief that maybe... well, definitely, I do prefer the longer events. There's no doubt about it. I feel good in the longer events. That's not to say the Beast wasn't a long event. It was a long event. But I think with more training and a better idea of that course and the specific demands, I could certainly cut down my time. But if I was to go back, maybe the focus for me would be on the Ultra Beast anyway, because... that extra distance, I'd kind of be in my rhythm for a lot longer, rather than getting in my rhythm around the 15 kilometre mark and then having the race finish at 21 Ks. I get in my rhythm at 15 and I keep it in my rhythm, hopefully to the end of the race. So that they're the couple of big lessons that I really learnt from doing that. The Spartan Beast, it was a fantastic event. I'd recommend it for everyone. The amount of just the hype around it and the people there, and it was being filmed for NBC, and it was just amazing, and they did a really good job of introducing obviously all the professional athletes and that kind of thing, and it really amped it up to be like a kind of truly international event, because they did have people from all over the place. They had Olympians, past Olympians, professional triathletes, professional obstacle races, you name it, they kind of had someone there. It was Canadian Olympian, Mexican Olympian. They had, good mix of people. 3-time tough guy champion from the UK. So yeah, I think they really did a good point on that. And that's just reminded me of one of the other lessons, and that's like the importance of hydration and food and that kind of thing. The girl who was leading the race early on, I forget her name, but I believe she was an Olympian. She went without a hydration backpack, and I believe without even any food. And, I saw her pass me, because the women only started about 15 minutes behind the guys, so it wasn't that big of a break. And anyway, she obviously passed me at some point in the race, and towards the end, like once I'd finished, Deanna Blegg, the Aussie who went over, she came second, and I said, oh, where'd that, girl come? Because she didn't win, she didn't come second, and no one really knew, and apparently it turned out that she just blew up on the course. She wasn't even in the top 10, and I think she even DNF'd. And the feedback that I heard from a couple of the girls that I spoke to was that, she just went, she wasn't used to obstacle racing maybe, and the food and the nutrition, the hydration, the electrolytes just weren't there. So My plan was pretty good. I felt pretty good except for that low point, as I said. And I think you learn and refine every single race that you do. But, you know, he was someone who was like a professional athlete, and they didn't get it right on the day. So I think the message from that is obviously get your own food and nutrition right in training. But then also on race day, don't be daunted or put off by some people who have a big name or a big backing or a big background in a certain sport. It doesn't necessarily translate to obstacle racing or the particular terrain or the race or whatever you're doing. You know, you could have a marathon runner who can do a 2:30, but they might always just run on flat. Maybe they've never run up a hill before. Obviously, they're going to have that natural speed advantage, but, you know, things like hills and obstacles, it shakes it up a bit. So anyway, guys, that's my video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next shortly in the next one. Thanks.